As some of my regular viewers will know, I'm very much an advocate for physical media. I much prefer having things like movies, books, and games physically sitting on my shelf, ready and waiting to go. This way of doing things is becoming harder and harder as time goes by, especially with streaming services, digital-only games, and physical games that barely have any of the actual game on the disc. But having said all that, I recently found a retro gaming item that I really like. And I've been having a lot of fun with it, so I just thought I'd share it with you. Before I do though, let me just say thanks to everyone who's been watching my videos, and of course, welcome to all the new subscribers. We're really pushing to get to that 1,000 subscriber milestone, and I'd really love it if we could get there by Christmas. So if you enjoy the video, please do consider subscribing to the channel. Now then, some of you may already know about this particular item. This is the Evercade handheld retro console by Blaze, and I gotta say, I'm really enjoying this thing. I'll be completely upfront with you and say that when I first saw this, I think it was last year sometime, I wasn't really impressed by how it looked. I mean, fair enough, I only gave it a quick glance, but I basically ignored it until now, and I really wish I hadn't. Oh, and I should say at this point, I'm not being sponsored for this video or anything. I didn't receive this for free or anything like that. It's not a review copy. I just bought it randomly and I wanted to talk about it, so here we are. So I guess I should probably explain what it actually is. It is in fact a portable handheld console that plays special cartridges. These cartridges contain collections of retro games from various publishers and developers. The carts are produced by the same company that makes the actual console, and they officially licensed every single game. The console itself is emulation based and plays those games from the carts via that emulation. As I said though, the entire catalogue of games has been officially ported to the console, so, rest assured there is nothing shady going on. The games on the carts are based, as I said, on collections. You have an Atari collection, a Namco collection, Interplay, Pico Interactive, Codemasters, and many more. The amounts of games varies on each cart, but they all cost around the same price. I don't really mind that personally because, okay, you pay £15 or about $20 for a collection with, let's say, 10 games on it. But you also pay that same price for collections with 20 games or maybe only 3 games, so I kinda tend to feel like it averages out. The console itself feels pretty nice to hold and feels sturdy with a good weight to it. It doesn't feel cheap or hollow at all. It's got 2 speakers on the front which sound really good for what they are, and the D-pad reminds me of the old Sega Mega Drive or Genesis ones, which is always good in my opinion. Here you can easily see the other face buttons, but it also has one left and one right shoulder button which are nice and clicky, as well as volume up and down buttons and an on-off switch. It's also got a headphone port and a micro USB port for charging. The battery will last you around, I'd say 4 hours of continuous play in my experience, which I think is perfect for a system like this. Plus you can charge it as you play if you need to. The final physical feature of the console is that it has a mini HDMI out port. So if you grab a mini HDMI to standard HDMI cable, you can play the console through your TV in 720p, which is a nice option to have. It's actually how I was able to capture the footage of the games which you're probably seeing right now. As for software options, it does support multiple save states and also plays games in a 4:3 aspect ratio by default. You can widen it if you like, but I tend to play them in 4:3 because frankly that's how they were meant to be played at the time they were made. But if you like widescreen, go for it, the option is there. So what are your buying options for something like this? Well, you can generally pick up 2 different versions, the starter pack or the premium pack. The starter pack comes with 1 game collection, which is always the Atari Collection Volume 1 plus the console itself. Or you can go for the premium pack, which comes with 3 game collections instead of 1, which means you'll be getting the Atari Volume 1, Namco Museum Volume 1, and also the Interplay Volume 1 collections. Although that might be a UK thing because I'm sure that I've seen other YouTubers from the US who got different collections in their premium pack. I think they got something like Data East Volume 1 and perhaps Interplay Volume 2 if I remember correctly, but the Atari one seems to be consistent throughout. I really can't go into the pricing too much because it really depends where you go. If you're in the UK, I found that the store called Game, which is our version of GameStop, had both the starter pack and premium pack at the exact same price. which is kind of odd, and of course I went and grabbed the premium one, but it was £60, which works out to be about, I think, $83. I have seen that the premium pack is usually more like £80 in the UK and $100 in the US though, so I would consider those prices to be a bit more accurate. So with the console stuff out of the way, let's talk about some of the games from each collection. First, we'll look at a few games from the Atari Volume 1 set, but I won't go over all of them because there is like 20 on there. But if you'd like to see everything on each collection, I'll leave a link below where you can check them all out for yourselves. So this set has both Atari 2600 and 7800 games included on it. And I gotta say, I never owned an Atari back in the day. I was actually born in 1988 and didn't start playing video games till around probably 92, 93. So I was more of a 90s kid even though I was born in the 80s. And obviously I missed the boat on Atari stuff, but it is really cool to go back and see what it's all about. I don't have any nostalgia for these games that others might have, and I wouldn't say that I loved any of them, but I definitely respect them. I mean, this is gaming history, and it's nice to be able to officially play them, especially because I missed out on it when I was a kid. So then, the one you're looking at now is Ninja Golf on the 7800, which I had to include because it's just so ridiculous. You literally hit your ball down the field, and on your way to take your next shot, you fight off ninjas because of course you do. It was honestly pretty fun, and it really gave me a good laugh too. If you decide to pick up this console and you play this collection, definitely try this game and let me know what you think of it, because I had no idea something like this even existed, and it's brilliant just because of what it is. I am not ashamed to say that I had fun with this one. This is Missile Command from the 2600, and it's a classic arcade game, and even though I've never played it before, I knew exactly what it was. This game, although very basic, is well loved by retro gamers and arcade players. It's simple and easy to play, but I don't know, very hard to master. And believe it or not, even in 2021, this game managed to hook me for a decent session. And now I kind of want to play more of it. I guess that's kind of the draw of some of these old games. They're so basic and simple to play, but you need to play and play and play to just get better at them, you know? And this is definitely a case of this is a classic for a reason, so I definitely want to put more time into it. And you know, as with a lot of older games, the idea of it is really quite simple. The missiles come down from the top of the screen, and you need to stop them. And that's basically it. It looks easy, but I promise you it's not. Next we have Centipede from the 2600, and it's another classic. It's just one of those games that goes with Atari. I mean, even 15 years ago, if someone had said Atari to me, I would just probably think of Centipede. And I probably don't need to explain what's going on, as you can easily see it, but basically the centipede is coming from the top of the screen down, and you're shooting up towards it to stop it. And every time you hit it, it creates a block, which then kind of blocks you from shooting more of the centipede. It gets a lot quicker and faster, and remember, this is the first time that I've ever really played any Atari stuff despite being into retro games, so I don't know, maybe this one just means a little bit more to me than it usually would. Either way, I'm not really sure, but I enjoyed it. Lastly, I'd just like to mention Food Fight, which is again from the 7800. This one was really interesting to me. It's another one that I'd heard of but never seen or played before. Again, the idea is simple. You just get your character from one side of the screen to the other side of the screen to eat the ice cream cone. The thing is, you have these constantly spawning chef enemies trying to stop you. It sounds ludicrous when I say this out loud, but you have a limited number of food items laying around that you can use to sort of fend them off as you make your way across the screen. But the less of them you use, the more points you get. So I don't know, it's just a really clever and simple idea, but I found it pretty addictive. I literally had to stop myself playing when I'd recorded enough footage. And I just have to ask, this has probably been commented on for years, but why does the kid's face go really creepy when he eats the ice cream cone? Like, my missus came in and saw it earlier on, and she literally said out loud, "What the hell is wrong with that kid's face?" And I'm just like, I don't know, man, it's weird. But yeah, it's a fun game and I enjoyed it, so let me know what you think of it. So now let's move on to the second collection, the Namco Museum Volume 1. Of course, it has things like Pac-Man, which everybody on the planet knows about at this point, and Dig Dug, which again is a commonly known game, so I didn't put too much time into those. Some of the other stuff, though, I hadn't ever heard of, so I wanted to try them out. Firstly, let's talk about Xevious. It's a top-down vertical shoot-'em-up game, and of course, like most old games, it's pretty simplistic. But I found it to be quite enjoyable and actually relatively difficult. I don't know whether I'm just really bad at these games, but I'm sure with practice I could do better. Despite that though, I still really enjoyed it, and I thought the designs of the alien spaceships that you shoot down were really cool, and I also thought that the sound effects were really good. They just sounded, I don't know, kind of different for a game like this, and I just really enjoyed them. I thought they were great. I'll definitely play some more of this one soon. Next we have Metal Marines, which I'll be honest is a far more complex game than I had realized, and yeah, I was just pressing buttons here trying to figure out how things worked when I was recording it. It's a strategy game with some pretty impressive pixel graphics, I will add, and I was really surprised to see that the cutscenes had anime characters in them because the box art didn't really shout anime to me, so yeah, a pleasant surprise. I'll definitely have to look into this game a bit more and learn how to play it properly to really enjoy it, but it seems really cool and I'll definitely give it a go. Now this next one I was really having fun with. This is called Battle Cars. The actual driving feels a lot like it does in the F-Zero racing games, but you basically have these futuristic cars and they have weapons attached to them, and while you race you can barge into other cars and blow them up with your weapons. As you can see in the video, I had these kind of metal discs that I could fire out, and I got some really good hits on people with them as well. What I found that was really cool was the fact that when you race, you earn cash and credits that you can spend on upgrades for your car in between races, which again is a nice touch in some of these older games. I didn't know that games this old or this far back in time actually did these kind of things, and I'm really starting to appreciate them more and more, so I'll definitely be back for more of this one. Lastly, this game was my absolute favourite so far of any game I've showed you. There is one other game that beats it in the Interplay collection, but man, this one, I was just blown away by this game. I had no idea that there was something this ambitious made in 1985. It's called Starluster, and it's a space exploration and combat game that feels like you're kind of in 3D space even though you're really not. I was just glued to this game for like over an hour when I was recording this, no word of a lie. I enjoyed the game that much and was so impressed by it that I'm actually going to buy a boxed copy of the Famicom version if I can get one. I don't know why I liked it so much, I really don't, I just did. And yeah, the stuff you can do in it is very limited, of course, you know, it's a very old game. It's not exactly going to be like No Man's Sky or anything, but wow, it did genuinely impress me. You can warp to two different types of locations, one of them being a base where you can kind of recuperate, and the other being the enemy locations where you can fight off the alien spaceships. And I know it looks very, very basic by today's standards, but my mind just is blown thinking of what it would be like for a kid back in 85 to play this and feel like they were in space, like in the cockpit of a spaceship, you know? Just really impressed me. I cannot wait to play more of this one. And after that we move on to the third collection, which is Interplay Volume 1, and it contains one of my all-time favourite games. So I owned this game as a kid, but unfortunately I was never able to beat it. I was pretty young at the time. Although, now that I'm older, I'm going to try and go back, try to learn the game, and try to finish it. The game I'm talking about is Boogerman. Now you probably thought I was going to say Earthworm Jim, but even though that is in fact a great game, I have always loved the Boogerman game. When I was a kid, I found toilet humour just so funny. In fact, I kinda still do, if I'm honest. I mean, if you've ever watched the English TV show called Bottom, then you'll understand my humour. This game was just bright, colourful, funny, and kinda gross. Basically everything a 90s kid wants in a game. But I don't know, I just played it so often as a kid, even though I could never beat it. I have very fond memories of playing this, and I just really want to try and finish it one day. I don't know, maybe I'll even do it on a stream in the future. I mean, we'll have to wait and see on that, but maybe. That sounds like a cool idea. But yeah, it was just one of my go-to games as a kid. I couldn't really explain it to you. I just really enjoyed it and found it really fun. I mean, of course, it's just a platform game at the end of the day, but it's just something I remember really liking when I was a kid, and it was basically my go-to game on the Mega Drive, or the Genesis if you're from the US. And moving on, obviously Earthworm Jim is considered one of the best platformers of its era, but man am I bad at it. I never actually owned this game as a kid, but I did play it at a friend's house a lot, and I did rent it a few times from Blockbuster. Yes, I'm old, I know, but I always thought it was cool, and now I get to play it again, so that can only be good, right? Actually, I think Earthworm Jim 2 is on the Interplay Volume 2 collection, so I'll probably grab that as soon as I can as well. And lastly on this collection, I want to talk about Clay Fighter. Now, okay, this isn't a good fighting game. It just isn't. I mean, it's alright, it's playable, but it's just not great. I had a lot of good times with Clay Fighter 63 1/3 on the N64, and I never owned the original, which is what this game is. So it's nice to own it, and I've already beat the story mode, or the, arcade mode a couple of times as the Blob, but it's really not a game I'd recommend to most people. It's just kind of funny and a bit of an average fighting game, but it's still really cool to own it. So that's the console and the 3 collections of games that come with it. Of course, there are far more games out there than I've showed, and again, link will be in the description if you want to see every game that's included. Performance-wise, I didn't really have any major issues with it, but I did have 2 what I would call minor problems. The first is when I was playing Battle Cars through the HDMI on my TV. The sound was just really messed up and sounded like static. It just wouldn't work no matter what I did, but in handheld mode it works absolutely fine, and even on the recording it came out fine, so I have no idea what happened there. Other than that, there was a tiny bit of slowdown in some areas in some games, but nothing that would ruin the experience in any way. It was very, very minor. But other than that, pretty much all perfect all around. There's also one really cool thing that you should all know. Blaze, the same company that makes the handheld, is also making a home console for your TV, which releases early November 2021. It will be able to play all of the current carts that work on the handheld, except for 2 of them, I think, because they are handheld exclusives, I believe. But yeah, it will play most of the carts already out there, and it's more powerful, so it can play them in 1080p instead of 720p. And you can actually slot in 2 carts at once, allowing you to have more games to choose from at any one time. It's got 4 USB ports for controllers, and they have confirmed that pretty much any USB controller will work, including wireless ones with receivers, which is a nice touch. It does come with their own wired USB controller, but you can pretty much use whatever you like, which is brilliant. I've already pre-ordered one myself. I've got the premium version, which comes with 2 game collections and 2 controllers. And if you want more info on it, I'll have a link below to their website so you can check it out for yourself. I'll probably review it as well when it comes out. I mean, why not? I don't believe I'm getting any kind of review copy or anything like that, so it'll just be me buying it and showing it to you. So there you go, that's my look at the Evercade handheld retro console and 3 of its game collections. If you want to see more videos on topics like this, or want to ask me anything about what you've seen in the video, please feel free to do so in the comments section. As I said earlier, we're pushing to that 1,000 subscriber mark, so if you enjoyed the video and want to be part of this growing channel, please do consider subscribing. As always, if you want to support the channel, all the important links are in the video description down below. But with all that said, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time.